So I've not been recording any videos recently. I've been away for a little bit, and I've had a couple of comments asking for the Active Directory deep dive DNS review. A couple of other videos that I said I was going to put out, so I've worked on them, I've recorded them, I'll put them up over the next couple of days. But I thought it might be fun to have a little look at some non-technical stuff to do with IT careers today. I've done a couple of shorts over the last few days around similar subjects, and this popped up on Reddit last night, so I thought I'd post about it today. Um, and if this is popular, I might do some more sort of reviews of community threads on Reddit, on Spiceworks, and just talk about IT in general a little bit more and blog about it. So this comes up all the time. What do I do if I get no tickets? What do I do if I've got nothing to do? How do I look busy at work? Management don't know what I do. I've got loads of free time and I don't know how to spend it. So this thread has some really, really good comments, and I thought we'd just sort of scroll through, have a look at some of them. I'll add a little bit of commentary on some of it. So let's go. So this ticket says they work as a sysadmin for a large corp, but they're branched off, so this might be relevant to people who are internal IT but they outsource, or it might be relevant to people in this particular situation. They were getting a lot of tickets, but now they're all delegated centrally, so they don't get many tickets anymore. All they do is break things. So this is a bit of a weird one, because generally when people say they've got no tickets, they literally mean they've got nothing to do. But this poster does have their walk-ups to do, and general break fix stuff. I assume by tickets they're talking about changes and sort of wider stuff than give me a new mouse battery. So top comment, create a ticket for the walk-ups. This one's super obvious. They're not logging the requests that they're getting from people that they speak to. They're not logging the stuff that they do day to day, and obviously that's going to cause issues when it comes to things like performance reviews and reviews to see if their job is even relevant anymore, because if you can't show what you've been doing, then as far as the business is concerned, you're not doing anything. So a lot of IT in every aspect is just about covering your ass, and that is relevant for what you're doing with your time. That's relevant for documentation. It's relevant for changes. All of these things, like change request processes, are in place, and like ticket updates are in place, so that if there is a problem, you can prove that you've followed the correct procedure. You can prove that you have done something to the documented company standard, whatever it is. It can be as simple as sending emails, but one of my absolute top most important things for anyone working in IT is just make sure that you've got everything in writing. If a user asks for something that then causes an issue, make sure it's gone through the proper change process. If your manager asks you to do something that you know is going to be an issue and you push back, make sure you do so in writing. Don't just tell them that it's a bad idea. And also, on the other side of the coin, if you get good feedback, squirrel that away. I've always kept a folder in my mailbox of praise for jobs well done, projects well done, even simple thank yous from users when working on internal IT to say that you did a good job on this ticket, or I'm really pleased that you did this. And I do that in every aspect of my life in my own business. When I get good feedback, or I get messages on my e-commerce sites to say that, thanks, I really like the packaging, I keep that. Anything like that is good for job interviews, assuming that there's no sort of identifiable information in there and you can use it for a job interview. Certainly, feedback for my own business, if I was to go for if I was to go for an interview and say, look, I've got this really successful shop, and this is how I manage it, and people are really happy with how I'm doing things, and I can use that as a way to show sort of competency, show that I care about what I'm doing. and it sort of goes the same way, especially for internal sort of upwards mobility in a company. If you're going for a higher up role, and you can show the hiring manager that people inside the company already trust you, already sort of know how you work and like how you work, that's only going to work in your favour. So, went completely off topic there, but still hopefully relevant. So we'll skip down. This comment jumped out at me. It was spending lots of time writing ticket. So a lot of ticketing systems have a general admin sort of time code which you can log against. I know that as a general rule, management don't love people logging to general admin or queue management or whatever it is. But it is a real issue. You know, you can spend a lot of time writing your ticket updates. You can spend a lot of time doing admin in this job. And there's a comment that we'll probably get down to later on, which talks about logging your admin time. You know, if you're ordering stuff, if you're putting stuff away in cupboards when it arrives, all of that stuff is sort of relevant time that you could log somewhere. You know, if you, all I would say is if you're logging to these general admin codes, these sort of generic codes, make sure you're putting a detailed note in there to say, you know, an hour and a half general admin, updating my timesheets, putting my expenses in, organising my calendar. You know, if you can spend an hour a week blocking time, and I may even do a separate video on time blocking because I think it's such a good way to work. If you spend an hour on a Monday blocking out your entire week and you know exactly what you're doing every hour of the week, I think you're, as long as you're not being interrupted by calls and walk-ups, depends what your role is, I suppose, you can be a lot more efficient than if you don't do that. You know, I try and block an hour to do this. Even before and after work, I'll put in an hour of working on my own personal projects or things like that. So I think spending a bit of admin time to save time in the future is absolutely worth doing, and I don't see how most management could have an issue with that if you can demonstrate how much more efficient you are. And you know, if you can say, look, before I did this I was billing 60% of my time and now I'm billing 80% of my time, then happy days. That's a good result for them and it's a good result for you. So we're going on to the sort of more technical bits now, because previous comments were a lot about sort of soft skills, I suppose. Maintenance work is getting done. Diagrams, documentation, port labels, all of this stuff is a good use of time. And it was this comment, but leave the office in good shape for whoever comes after you, I think is a really elegant way of putting things. So it's setting yourself up for quiet vacations. If you've got everything documented, if you've got all of your ports labelled, you know, diagrams to say this switch, these ports go here, this is how this is connected, these are all the VLANs, you know, everything else. Whether you have a documentation system or not, you know, I don't know, that you might be using IT Glue or something, you might just have a OneNote document. Make sure that your documentation is completely bang up to date, it's as detailed as you can possibly make it. I know that there is a counterpoint here, which is don't make yourself replaceable. You know, you don't want to put all of your skills onto paper. I've worked with people like this before where they will hoard knowledge, not share it. They'll have private documents which they use for you know, standard operating procedures essentially. So, you know, we do a Citrix build and they would say, well, you can't have my Citrix build doc because it's my knowledge and you'll just fire me if I give it to you. But I think if you're working somewhere like that, you probably want to be looking for a new job anyway. Obviously, the company's not your friend, but at the same time, I think it makes sense to have as much documentation as possible for things like your vacations, for training new hires. So another good note here is backups, battery health in UPS, all that kind of stuff. You know, if you've got an alerts mailbox with thousands and thousands of emails that you never get a chance to look at, clean all that out. Go through your RMM system, make sure that the thresholds are relevant. Do you get a recurring alert for disk space on a particular server that you know about? It comes in every day, it annoys you, well, go and either change the threshold or do something about it, fix those problem tickets. Keep on top of patch levels, software versions, CVEs, all that kind of stuff. You know, if you've got a server that you log into and it prompts you to update some application every time you log in, get a change request written, get it booked in, get it done. If you've got loads of spare time, there's not really any excuse for not doing this stuff. As that comment says, there's always found work to be done. It's quite easy to make yourself busy in IT. And as we'll probably come on to, there's always ways that you can improve things. There's always ways that you can optimize things. You know, are you using pieces of software that you're not particularly happy with for infrastructure tasks? You know, what's your IPAM system? What's your backup system? Are there alternatives available that you can use? Maybe you could trial something. You reach out to vendors and have a look at things. Coming back to documentation, if you are using your OneNote documents and your Word documents to store things, could you be using SharePoint? Should you look at a third-party tool like BizDocs or ITGlue or something? I liked this comment. It says normal. It probably is. You know, I know a lot of people in IT. I know a lot of people in IT who will sit there and scream and scream and scream and say, I'm so busy, I've got no time, I've never ever got a second to myself. Equally, I know a lot of people who do nothing all day. They play video games. I've known a guy for, I don't know, 15 years probably, and I've never ever seen a working hour where he's not been logged into World of Warcraft. The guy is full-time playing World of Warcraft, and he works on a service desk in Holland or something, or I don't know what he does. He does something in IT out in Europe, and the guy just plays WoW all the time. Obviously, he has such an enormous amount of spare time, it's ridiculous. And you can go down that road. There's a lot of comments which, funnily enough, have not made it up to the top comment bit, which say, I play video games all day. I do DIY on my house. I play with the kids, you know, whatever it is. I'm paid to be available as much as I'm paid to work, which I think is completely fair. And there's a really good comment somewhere that says, I appreciate the downtime because when I'm busy, I am busy. And I think that is a fair way to look at it, because, you know, if you get a security incident, or there's like an emergency CVE that needs to be pushed out to a bunch of devices and you're up working all night, you know, there's an unhappy customer that have had an outage and you need to work on fixing that outage, a piece of hardware dies, whatever it is, there is always going to be days or even weeks where you are just absolutely rammed with no breathing space whatsoever. So it's completely valid as well to not be optimizing every second into improving your company's infrastructure or improving your career prospects. Which brings us on to improving your career prospects. So the rest of this comment, are you making as much money as you want, and are you happy with the impact that's required by you? Cool. Play some games or kill time on Reddit. I think that's quite a good way to look at it. Are you happy? And that's what the sort of bottom line comes down to. If you're unhappy, you're stressed, you're working 12-hour days for no extra pay because you're salaried, you're miserable, you hate the work, something needs to change. If you're bored, you've got nothing to do, you've tried to get change pushed through management and you can't, you're unhappy, you don't like the systems you're working on, you're not progressing, something needs to change. There's two sides to the same coin here. Do you want more money? Who doesn't want more money? But if you're comfortable and you know that going up to the next level and making more money is going to be a massive change in stress level, or it's perhaps into a job that you're not necessarily interested in. So, for example, the next you might be a consultant or something, and the next stage in your career journey at your current business, the only thing you can move into is something like pre-sales, which you don't want to do because you don't want to do sales. You know, you need to think, well, am I happy at the salary level I'm at? Do I need to look at a different business to progress to more money, or am I comfortable, and is the extra money worth the extra stress, especially if you're pushing yourself over tax thresholds, or you're going to get diminishing returns on how much money you're actually making. Do you want the extra stress to pay a bit more tax and get a little bit more money? Maybe not. And are you happy with the impact, the input that's required of you? You know, are you happy with what you're actually doing? If you make enough money, if you're happy that you only have to work a couple of hours a day and you're not interested in progressing, then fine. You know, you're in the sort of perfect place. If you said to a builder or a sparky or a chippy, you know, you can work an hour a day and then you can slack off and still get paid for it, rather than hammering your body and, you know, giving yourself health problems in later life, they're going to be like, what the hell are you complaining about? Why are you miserable? I was talking to one of my mates who's a brickie the other day, and he was like, I wish I could sit at a desk all day, and this is while I'm complaining and saying, I wish I could be outside all day like you doing manual work, because I don't want to be sat behind a computer all day. And he's like, well, why not? You know, sometimes I think you just need a little bit of perspective on, I won't say how easy you've got it, because obviously people in this field have worked hard to get where they are as a general rule. I saw another comment somewhere else which likened it to driving, which, you know, you imagine if someone said sit behind a wheel and drive 8 hours without a break, you'd be mentally exhausted, and that's what IT is like sometimes. So here we go. Do you want to keep this trend but be less hands-on? Start automating. So automation is something that I've not really touched on. I know I mentioned RMM and monitoring and thresholds and things, but say one of your jobs that's using up an hour every couple of days or whatever is onboarding new hires or a lever process or something. Start automating it. You know, go and learn PowerShell, and start sort of slowly moving yourself to a position where instead of manually doing things, you're just running a couple of scripts. Equally, that works if you're very, very busy. If you're absolutely hammered all the time and you're slammed and you've got no spare time, carve out a bit of that time to start improving things. You know, as you fix something, fix it in a way that is automatically repeatable. So say your new starter process takes you an hour. In that hour, you can probably automate the process, or every time you do it over the next 6 weeks, script one more step of that process, and eventually the process will be automated. And then going forward, you can do it in 5 minutes and buy yourself some time back. So it works both on the I'm bored, I don't have anything to do spectrum, because you can spend some of that time doing something which is actually productive and also improving your skills if you don't know PowerShell and don't know automation very well. And equally, if you're very, very busy, it can buy you a bit of time back. Do you want to make more money? Figure out the path you want to take and skill up. Now, that's kind of what this channel is all about. I'm all about trying to get people to progress in their careers, and I talk a lot about certifications, which certifications to take. I mentioned in a shorts, I think, about Microsoft partner accreditations. So MSPs and other tech companies want to be Microsoft partners. Reason for this is, and I will probably do a longer video on this because I've only done a short and I've only touched on it in here. I may have touched on it in one of my older videos last year, But essentially, companies want to become Microsoft partners because of financial incentive. They get better pricing, they get free licensing, makes them look good to prospective customers, all that kind of stuff. So if we look at solutions partner for modern work, for example, all I've done here is I've just gone to partner.microsoft.com and had a look at the solutions partner requirements. There are 6 different accreditations at the moment, which is a massive change. There used to be like loads of them. So it's all been simplified quite a lot, but essentially you have to perform, so you have to have net new customers into like 365 and Azure. You have to have certain spends, which is none of your business as the sysadmin, really. That's a sales issue, but the skilling category is definitely relevant. So if you're trying to decide which cert you should take next, I highly recommend going for a certification that's relevant for a partner competency. The reason I recommend that is because it makes you more desirable as a hire to people who want Microsoft partner accreditation if you have one of these, because companies need to have a certain number of people with relevant certifications. So if you're going for the small and medium business accreditation, you need 2 people with intermediate certs and 1 person with advanced certs, and then it's double that for the enterprise accreditation. These used to be called like silver and gold. They've changed it all. I don't really know the full details because I haven't looked into it since it used to be gold partner. But the bottom line is companies need this many people to be certified. So you've got a load of choices of exams. You can do the fundamentals, which is obviously a nice easy one. You do the MS 900 or the AZ 900, MS for modern workplace and AZ for the solutions partner for infrastructure. You've got the Teams one, identity and access. So I mean, I'd if you were going for like 2 intermediates, I'd probably say just get the fundamentals one because it's nice and easy, and then probably do endpoint because Intune's generally going to be the most useful of all of these. Maybe identity and access, and then advanced you want enterprise admin expert, maybe Teams if you work for a UC company or something who specialise in Teams and Teams phone and stuff. But generally you're going to want to go for enterprise admin expert. So if we click on that, it will tell you what search you need to get it. So basically you can do either the endpoint admin associate, which funnily enough is one of the intermediate ones, and then you can also do one of these. So you can do messaging, Teams, identity access, information protection. So if you do 2 of these certs, you get this one. It's a nice easy way to make yourself a more desirable hire for any MSP or other business where being a Microsoft partner is relevant. So I will just speak to that for 1 more minute. Generally when people are hiring, they're either hiring because it's a new role, in which case this is less relevant, or they're replacing someone who's left. So if you're Azure architect leaves and you lose the AZ305 exam, you need to replace the person who's taken that exam. You can either train up one of your existing hires to take that exam. It depends on the people you have working for you. I don't personally rate going on a course to learn an exam. I don't like going to Ignite, doing an hour session and then going in and taking the exam 3 times to try and blag it. I like to self-study, I like to do practice tests, I like to read KBs, and I like to lab things. Classroom learning just doesn't work for me, but I know a lot of people do insist on, I need to go on a course before I can take this Microsoft exam. So you're looking at a few £1,000 to go and do an exam course, so you're already out of pocket a couple of grand there. and you've obviously got the cost of the exam, which is pretty negligible, but it's still 150 quid or something for the architect exam. And it's time, you need to put someone through that exam. Or you're replacing the person anyway. Are you going to hire... You've got two identical CVs, two people who are perfect fits for the job. One's got the 305, one hasn't. So one of them's going to count towards your partner accreditation, one of them isn't. It's a no-brainer which one you're going to take. Obviously, you're going to take the guy with the architect exam over taking someone who you're going to have to say, look, as part of your probation, you need to pass this exam or something, because we all know that if you say that, they're not going to pass it, and you're going to keep them anyway because you don't want to rehire based off the fact that they just didn't get a cert. So, yeah, get your certs. I've said that so many times. Go and get your certs. I know that some people don't care. Some people think they're not valuable. Some people think they're a waste of time. They don't really show you skills. True in some ways, but for purely a career benefit and from a career perspective, get your certs. So here we go. I suppose the other thing on there is also you could ignore Microsoft completely and go and learn something completely new. They mention skilling up, not specifically certifications. So say you're a Windows sysadmin, you want to learn Linux. Go and build a Linux environment and work on it. Set up, see if you can get a usable Windows domain running purely on Linux boxes. Why not go and learn Samba and stuff and play with that. Here you go. Spend the downtime learning new tech. Same thing. And also use past projects to pick out major wins to update your CV like that. Get them on LinkedIn if you can. LinkedIn has that little projects thing where you can say, I worked on this project with this person, and this is what we did. As long as you're not under any kind of NDA, or if you've got a personal project you can put on there, by all means get that on there. It's a good talking point for interviews. Training, again, start planning update projects. Start going to meetings. Don't do that. But you can do that, but I mean, I think meetings about meetings is something that starts rolling quite quickly. You need budget and downtime for upgrades. Yeah, fine. Practice backup recovery. That's a really good one. Something that people don't do enough is run through your drip, run through your DR plan, test your backups. If you don't know if your backup can be restored, you don't have a backup. I don't care if you've got a bulletproof Veeam GFS thing going back 7 years with 7 years of yearly backups, and they look like they're all there. If you've not restored one from 6 years ago, you don't have a backup. You don't know it's going to work. So test your backups. Coming back to the CV, the projects, the anecdotes and things, something that I haven't seen mentioned in the comments, and I don't know, I may get some backlash. There is a book called The Phoenix Project, which you can buy on Amazon. It is a novel about IT, DevOps, and helping your business win by Gene Kim. I know that it has some mixed reviews in the sort of wider IT space. I actually read it on Kindle, liked it so much I bought the physical copy, and I think I've bought it again twice because I've lent it to people and then just ended up letting them keep it. Mostly to business consultants rather than IT people, but it's relevant for us as well. It's who knows, maybe I'm committing myself a lot here, but maybe I'll make a video about the Phoenix Project and why I like it and why I think it's a good book. But in short, it is about a guy who goes into a company and he finds a load of IT issues that aren't getting fixed, and he optimizes all of the procedures around IT in the same way as you do in warehousing. So he sort of applies the 5 ways principles and the Toyota manufacturing, lean manufacturing principles and things to IT, and he sets up a cab and he sets up Kanban boards with all of the stuff on, and stuff starts getting fixed, and eventually everyone's happy. And it's a really good way to look at things, and I think it's quite handy to get a sort of perspective on the wider sort of idea behind DevOps and what DevOps is. There's a follow-up book which is slightly more technical. I think it's called the DevOps Handbook or something, which is also quite good. But use your downtime to read some books, and especially if you're reading technical books like that, go and apply the principles. I've got a really good Amazon reading list of relevant IT books, which again I will put in the video. I'll do a video about books, and I'll talk about the Phoenix Project. I'll talk about the rest of my reading list, because there's some really good and also quite cheap books that you can, the Red Team Field Manual has some really cool stuff in it. Blue Team Field Manual has some really cool stuff in it. There's quite a lot of good books around things like service-oriented architecture and other stuff that is all very relevant to us. And if you've got a bit of time and you're sort of able to read or even listen to audiobooks, books are a good way to do it. Study and skill up. Yep. See what's hot in the market that interests you. Okay, that's a good one, which we've kind of talked about a little bit. If there's something that you're not doing and you want to do, then go and learn it. Document all unticketed requests. Yep. Document. Play video games all day. Yep. I see all the other comments about studying and checking things, but I really do spend most of the day playing PS2. I should be doing better. Fair enough. That's, as said, completely valid. Invent a project for yourself. Yep. A really good one. Look at things that you're getting a lot of tickets for, and then find a way to make it better. What's most important to the business and what's their next priority? If you don't know, who should you be talking to find out? There is actually a comment here somewhere. I can't bother to find it now, but there is a comment in this thread which says talk to people, which I think is a good one, which is something that I probably wouldn't have mentioned, but on reflection it's something that I do a lot. I've worked with pre-sales, salespeople, business consultants, management, board members, you name it, on projects, project managers, and in every case I've tried to spend a bit of time talking to them about what they do on the daily, what their job is, how they got there, especially with board members. If you're working closely with a CTO and you get the opportunity to say what was your career path to get here, or I suppose any role where you think I can see myself doing that role in 3, 5, 10 years, talk to them about how they got in their role. Talk to them about how you can sort of progress, especially with things like pre-sales or business consultancy, if that's where you want to end up. Find out how these people got into the jobs they're in, and what sort of path they took, if they've got any certifications, what their experience is like, how they learn what they do, and try and pick up a bit of knowledge from them. Because if you've got time to be shadowing people and time to be spending time in other parts of the business learning, it comes back to the keeping yourself in employment, essentially. If the business does decide that they want to downsize this department because you don't have enough work on, and you've not covered your ass with the tickets, or even if you have, they for any reason you're looking at redundancy or looking at having to get a new role, if you've wormed your way in with other departments and other jobs and you've built yourself up to that, you you may be able to say, well, okay, they're outsourcing the service desk, but I'll move into pre-sales because I've spoken to the pre-sales guys, I've shadowed them, I know what they do on a day-to-day basis, and I'm qualified for the job. You might be able to take a position there. Right, more. Where are the bottlenecks? Start with discovery and documentation. Yep, fine. Pitch upgrades to management. Yep, same thing. Time to learn. Log your tickets. Yep, fine. Cool. So I think I'm not going to make it any longer because I don't want it to be super boring. But hopefully there's been some insight in that. Hopefully this was an enjoyable sort of format, just informally talking about IT and talking about people's opinions on how you do stuff. And hopefully if you are bored in your job, this will help you to be less bored and help you to progress. Check out my other videos about certification. I'll put out the technical videos that I've been asked for. I'll also put out the videos about books and reading list, and I will put out a video about the Microsoft partner accreditations, what certs you need for each one, why they're relevant, and do a sort of more complete breakdown of why companies want people who are certified to get their partner accreditations. Yeah, thanks for watching. Comments below if you've got anything to add.